All right, good morning, everyone. Let me stop that music. I'm gonna approve James's note taker. All right, how's everyone? Happy Tuesday. We are back at it. It is July 7th. Crazy to think about, and we are at the second half of the year. If any of you have access to your chat boxes, I'm going to throw out three things today that I want to talk about and have you guys pick if you would like to. So I've got my favorite if you do not pick. So the first, number one, is pre-qualification. Asking those pre-qualification questions to know where you want to go with them. Are you asking the same things every time? Number two, geographic farming. How to set up a geographic farm. And number three is, weekly updates. All right, I put those in the chat box, and I want you guys to let me know. So one is pre-qual, two is geographic farm, three is weekly updates. Okay, so I want you guys to let me know. What do you need the most help with? Pre-qualifying? Are you interested in setting up a geographic farm? Or do you need to talk about buyer and seller weekly updates? Anyone? I'll give you about 10 more seconds, then we're going to go into mine that I picked for today. Connie, you're on. Do you need pre-qualification, geographic farming, or how to do weekly updates more today?
Well, my big oops this week was I don't know why I can't close. Like
Okay.
I'm presented with, um, you're a realtor. Yeah, I am. And I was there to get some flowers from the neighbor. And I just couldn't say, do you have a go-to agent like you teach us? That would have been the perfect
Okay.
line. Instead, I just said, yes, I am. So how do you make these flowers grow again? Do I have to, no, it's like, why didn't I just
Yeah.
go in for the kill, right?
Yeah. So it's because you haven't practiced it enough,
Mm,
right? So you got to get with someone and practice more and more and more and more. And the thing that always brings you into it, everyone, my favorite tagline is always, so just curious.
mm,
When you have a real estate question, who do you ask for that? Okay, so that's the part. You've got the go-to agent part. You've missed the part before it. Well, so curious, when you have a real estate question, who do you ask? Okay,
mm.
because you want it to come right from that. Yes, I am a realtor, actually. And when you have real estate questions, who do you ask for that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
I don't know what it
practice,
is.
practice, practice.
Is it like,
That's
okay, I'm
all it
there
is.
for a different reason, and so I don't want to like push myself
Maybe,
on people? Maybe that's what it is.
maybe,
Mm.
maybe. But here's the thing, it may be your mindset because my thought process when I was going into that is everyone needs the best realtor in town,
Mm.
and that's me.
There you go.
So really, truly, I did feel like once I got to that point that I'm like, yeah, I really am doing them a favor by making sure they have an amazing agent, right? Whether it's me or someone else in my company or whoever, everyone needs an awesome agent in their pocket. So when you think of it that way, as you're not going to go and try to hound them, you're not going to sell them anything, you're going to be a resource for them, and they either want that or they don't, and it's okay if they don't.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe you're thinking of it more as trying to close them versus just building a relationship. Is there any
Mm.
opportunity to build a relationship with them as a realtor, or do they need that or not?
Right. Mm.
So think on that. Okay. Think on the whole opportunity being building the relationship with people. And that's all we're trying to do. They will not buy or sell except for every like 8 to 10 years. Okay. So you're that random person you're catching at the flower shop where Connie was is probably not moving. That might seem like why it feels weird,
Mm.
right? Because you're like, the likelihood of them moving is very small. And here I am a realtor and they probably don't need me, but they do need you. They need you for everything else, right? They probably currently have a project at their house on their desk, like I do, a survey issue that if a realtor called me today and said, hey, can I help? Yes, please. Okay. So just think about that. You're just being there when they need you. Okay. And everyone, practice that. It seems silly, but honestly, when I was learning that script, I literally worked it in my head in every conversation I was having, even with other realtors, because I was always like seeing the conversation. I was like, okay, and that's where I would have just put it. Okay, so just curious, when you have a real estate question, who do you call? And I would just practice it. I'd practice it at the gas station because who cares? That person isn't my person today, anyways, right? I can't lose them. If they aren't my person tomorrow, that's fine, right? Nothing to lose except I got to practice on them. And the more you practice, the more natural it'll become for you. And you've got a great role play partner, and I believe he's on this call right here. So you two practice together and nail that.
Okay.
Okay, so we are going to go to weekly updates, everybody. So,
I don't know.
Page 8 or 16 and 17. Okay. Oh, I lost you guys. That always happens when I share my screen. You guys go somewhere else, and I don't like that. But I'm going to try to find you and get you back. Okay, so weekly updates. Why is this so important? Because you're spending more time working with people, right? Their transactions are taking longer. Their buyer transactions are taking longer. Their seller transactions are taking longer. And you're just all in all having to work with people longer than you have before. Where did you guys go? Ah, there you are. Okay, so these updates are super important. Here's what I hear from realtors that aren't doing these 100% of the time. Oh, I tell them that. Every week I tell them that. And if you're not laying it out in an email so they can study the information themselves and look at it and dig in and sit with the information, it probably isn't getting in. Okay? So I want you to really think about that. Are you sitting down, putting it together, and sending it to them to digest every single week about what's happening in the market? Okay? So these are super valuable for your buyers and your sellers. These are super valuable from the very first time you meet them also. Okay, so think about when you meet a buyer, oftentimes we are jumping right into, let me set you up a search of houses that might match your criteria, right? What if you said, let me set you up a search of your potential market area and help you start doing some discovery and narrowing down areas that we might want to focus on. Okay, there's still value you can give them without going ahead and setting up a search and letting them see a bunch of houses that won't be there when they're ready. Okay, so these, when I knew I had a seller coming, and let's say they were waiting 6 months to get on the market, they started getting updates right away, even before we were listed, because they need to know what's happening in their market all the time. Okay, so buyers, same thing. When they tell you they're ready, you need to have a market area ready to go, and you want to start sending them a market update every single week. And here's what that market update looks like. You are going to send this bullet pointed list with the data every week. Okay, and here's what it says. Hey, so-and-so, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's what happened in your specific market this past week. Then I would put a little paragraph, a little couple lines. This week, yesterday's would have been, as you know, we're coming right off the July 4th weekend. That is one of our 40% drops in showing activity. We absolutely did see that in ours as well. So I'm expecting everything to rebound this week. And if we don't start seeing some activity by Thursday, we may talk again. Okay, great. Told them what just happened, what we should be looking for. Okay, and here's the data for your houses. Any new actives in the last 7 days? Okay, and you put a link to that. Any new pendings that happened in the last 7 days? Let's stay with sellers just right now, okay? So this is your sellers, and then we'll jump over to buyers in just a minute. So the sellers, new actives, they need to know what they're up against, right? They also need to know what they're up against, what condition are those houses are in, and how are they priced, right? So knowing exactly what you're up against every 7 days really helps them keep an eye on the competition.
So are you talking about in their price range or all?
Yes, thank you. Yes. That is such a great question, and thank you. This is for your buyers and your sellers. Okay, so you want to narrow it down to a specific area. Okay, so for my sellers, it might be as small as their neighborhood, depending on how much activity is in their neighborhood. What I'm trying to show them is houses their buyers are potentially looking at in comparison to theirs. Okay, so for instance, you want to think if you have a house in Carmel at 425, I'd search Carmel 4 to 450. Okay, now if they only wanted east side of Carmel, I'd only search east side. Okay, so think about that. If people are tending to pick one or the other, you want to stay within that area. Okay, so our buyer is likely coming from all of Carmel between this price point and searching this price point. Okay, does that make sense for everybody? So what you want to be doing is showing them where their buyer is looking. So if you had a buyer right now that might find their house, what's the potential search criteria just in their little pocket that you might put in? Okay, not bedrooms, baths, all that kind of stuff. You just want to know in that price point in that area what is coming on the market. And you're going to use that exact same criteria for all of these. Okay, so you want to make sure you're searching criteria to criteria each one and every week so they can watch what's happening. Okay, so first I'm going to tell you what should be in these. Then we're going to go through where you get this stuff. Okay, so I will take time to go back through and tell you how you do all this and where you find this data. Okay, but let's just talk about why and what you're sending right now. So new active listings in the past 7 days in their area and price point. New pendings, what went under contract in the last 7 days? That's so important for them to see. Number one, if there is a week where lots of listings went on, they know they have more competition. If there's a week where less listings went on, we have less competition, right? Now, if lots of houses sold last week and we didn't, why? Right? If nothing sold last week, then maybe we didn't miss any buyers. Okay, so that's why it's super important to watch those pendings. Here's step 2 on your pendings. Okay, you send them those 3 pendings that happened this past week, and then you have got to look at those buyers' agents. Who represented the buyers on those pendings? Because they're representing the other people out there that could have bought your house. And you need to see, did they show your property? If they didn't show your property, you got to call that buyer's agent right now and say, hey, I have a listing right in the same area that your buyer just purchased, and I'd love to know, why didn't you come see ours? They will typically answer that. Okay, do them a favor. Agents are busy. Send your MLS sheet with it so you can trigger their brain. Don't make them have to go back into the MLS and find your listing. They definitely will not answer, right? Text them. Do whatever you can to be super easy to get that information. Send them the MLS. Why didn't you guys see this one? They'll probably look at the pictures and say, oh, it was that blah, blah, blah that turned them off. Or they won't live on a corner. Or they need a main floor master. Or, right? And all that stuff is hugely important for your sellers to know. Why are people rejecting yours? Is it something you can do something about or not? Okay? And how much of the buyer traffic are you getting in? We're trying to find out. Okay, what closed in the last 7 days? The importance of that, right? We don't need everything. We're just watching what's happened since we've been on the market, and we want to know how close is that list to sale price? Where did they finally land after all their negotiations and everything? Where did they finally land on that so that we have an idea what direction the market's going in? Remember, they're watching these week after week after week, so either it's maintaining, it's reducing, or it's increasing, and they're going to see that. Showing numbers. This is such a huge one. I'm going to actually show you this one today because so many people don't know how to get this one. You need to know in your same price point and area, in Carmel between 4 and 450, how many showings happened. Okay? How many showings happened? How many showings did we have of those showings? Okay? My goal was always to get 50% of the showings that were out there. When I followed and knew we had 50% of the scheduled showings, I knew that's when we were positioned to sell. I knew that because I watched them long enough. Okay? You guys watch those numbers too and see, is that still accurate? On the pricing pyramid, we bring this right back. When you guys see the pricing pyramid and it says at market value, you're still only going to get about 60% of the buyer traffic. It goes right in line with this. You can say, and every week I'm going to show you exactly what percentage of the buyer traffic we're going to get to know where we might be. Okay? So you've got to watch that. How many showings happened? How many did we have? Okay? Then you want to look at what the average days on the market is. Okay? Average days on the market to get an offer. It shows you that in Supra, Broker Bay, Showing Time, Centralized Showing Solutions. All of those products have this information. Okay, so you need to know the average days on the market till they received an offer. And then, of course, anything specific you did this week. I called around a different neighborhood and told them about your listing. I sent invitations to the neighbors to let them know of our open house coming up this weekend, right? Whatever you did to market their property, you need to tell them that every week. Okay, before we jump to buyers, any ahas or questions on that? Okay, can you see how if you're sending this every single week, you have much more educated sellers when they go in to negotiate offers? And 9 times out of 10, they're going to ask you for the price reduction. Because if you've educated them, here's our pricing strategy, here's what should happen, and here's what actually is happening, it should all line up right there, and it takes all of this off you, right? We're watching the market, okay? And this is the market. Okay, you ready to jump onto buyers? All right, so just as it's important for every seller to get an update every week, it's also important for your buyers to also get an update every week. I'll go back to those in just a minute. Okay, so the buyers, I don't have a summarized one, but let's talk about it's the same things in the buyer one. Okay, so now you have a buyer that is searching in, I don't know, Broad Ripple. Let's say Broad Ripple for 450. So we're going to look at 425 to 475 and I might draw a map. Okay, they want these streets in kind of this area, and that's a likely area where their buyer might be searching. Okay, and I'm going to show them the new active listings that are coming on. As a buyer, can you even think, right, how powerful is that for them every single week to see how much competition is coming on that they're dealing with? In the same breath, what's going off the market, how quickly it's going off the market, right? And what do I need to be on? What's the condition of those things that are actually pending, right? So you've got to let them know what pended in the last 7 days as well. Closed. List to sale price. There's that thing again. How long did it take for it to get under contract? What's the list to sale price on that? They also need to watch how many showings are happening, right? If your buyers watch, oh, there were 17 showings this week in the price point area, but this week there's 38, twice as much competition for me that I'm up against, right? And I'm seeing lots more houses sell. That means lots more offers. That means lots more escalation clauses, right? And you can interpret this stuff for them. Okay. The average days on the market, they need to know that also, right? How long do they have to think about this stuff? How quick are these houses flying off the market? And then you want to update them on anything specific that's happening, either that will affect the buyer, right, in their purchase, anything locally that might be happening that they might need to know about in the area they're looking to purchase, right? Anything they need to keep an eye on. And then any ongoing work you're doing. As you guys have heard me, the reason I lead generated every day was so that I could tell my buyers and my sellers I was working for them every single day. Because I am actively out finding buyers and sellers for you every single day. It's what I do every morning. It's also why you can't get me before 11, because I am out finding your buyers and sellers every day before 11. Okay. So that is what I would put in there. I'd be telling them, I called this neighborhood this week for your properties to find a house that you might be interested in. I called this neighborhood to find a house you might be interested in. Okay? All right, great. What questions do you have?
What do you do when you have a unicorn person who wants something that doesn't exist? Like
Oh boy,
Carmel
it's a
or
great
Westfield
question.
home under 200,000 that they can use as a rental property. So not only do I have to
Okay.
find the perfect home, but now it has to be rentable.
Yep. Okay. So, Connie, say that again. 250 in Carmel?
No, 200.
200. Okay. And are there bedroom minimums?
They didn't
Probably
start, but
three.
it's a
They probably went 3 and 2.
probably it's a
Okay, so let's just say that. Let's just say 3, 2 under 200 in Carmel.
right, or Westfield.
Okay. Or Westfield. Great. That makes it even better.
Hmm.
Okay. So here's what I would do. Okay. This is a unicorn. This is how you show them that they're looking for a unicorn. You're going to go back the last 5 years
Oh,
and you're going to pull how many solds under 200 with 3 bedrooms and 2 baths in Carmel and 3 bedrooms and 2 baths in Westfield.
okay.
I almost want to do it, but that would take too long. We have 10 minutes left.
Okay.
And guys, how many, you guys can make a guess, how many of those do we think there are? If you know that market, if you had to guess, how many do you think there are that come up every year in that price point and area in Carmel? 1, 2, 5?
Well, it depends. If it's a condo, maybe more, but single
We're
family
not
homes,
looking.
nothing.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say 5
Okay.
every year. Okay. Over the past 5 years, we've averaged 5 every year. What can they learn from that? If they know in the next 12 months, we're only going to have 5.
Yeah, they're out of luck. They need to up their game.
Right? And that's going to make them do one of 2 things. Okay, number 1, we got to be ready when those 5 come. What does ready mean? It means we got to be willing to offer more money. We got to be willing to do whatever we have to get that property because they are a dime a dozen. Okay, if they're not willing to jump, then you can stop this conversation right now because we
Okay.
already know you're looking for a unicorn. But sometimes the problem with these unicorns is they've seen one, and so they know they're out there. They just don't truly understand what a unicorn it is.
Hmm.
Okay. And sometimes when you show them, and then now let's say they're looking for this and they'll only consider white cabinets. Right. So now we're going to take it and we're going to say, okay, so of the 5 every month that come on the market, okay, we said years. Now I'm going to move it up to months. Now every month we're getting 5 listings like yours, but you only want white cabinets and only 1 in 5 have the white cabinets. So now you've got to know we're only going to have 25% of the market potentially to look at. And, right, that's how specific, what your specific specifications are doing to minimize your market.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Hmm. And what I'm trying to avoid is saying, I'm sorry, there's nothing this week, because it makes me look like I'm not
Yeah,
value added, right?
absolutely. And you got to tell them we're going to have 5 a year. So I'm going to watch and I'm just going to tell you the week they come up. And the other weeks, we're just going to be watching the market and hoping. And they just got to know that. You got to say, so it's going to be real annoying because your weekly updates are not going to say much. But that's okay. We want to still watch the market. We want to still know what's going on. And you bet your bottom when that one comes on, we're going to be on it. So we'll be the pendant that week.
So you
Okay?
do this for every client? So that
Every
means you have
one.
all those different searches you have to, is there an easy
Correct.
way to
So
do that?
let's go to that.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. There absolutely is. Okay, so number 1, in your MLS, you can set up a search and save them. Okay? So you need to set up your searches as, I am going to say Hill Seller. That's what my search is going to be called. When Connie Hill comes to me to list her house, I'm going to set it up as a Hill Seller. When Connie's coming to me to buy, I'm going to set it up as the Hill Buyer search. Why is that different? Because when they're actually looking, it's called something different. When it's their weekly update search, name it that. Okay? And then you schedule it to send to you. You can even pick the time of day you want it to send to you. 1 p.m. on Mondays was always my time. Every report I needed fell in my inbox at 1 p.m. on Monday, so I could sit down at 1, gather all the info, and do every seller and buyer update I needed, and I got it all done in an hour. Because I copied, pasted, copy, paste, okay? So yes, you need a system, you need a process, you need all of that. But in your MLS, you can set up those searches to send to you every week. Does everyone know how to do those? That's usually the one everyone knows how to do. Yes? Okay. And I've had lots of people say, we can't in this system, we can't in this. I promise you, every system I've looked into with someone and had them find where you can do it. So you can write down to the day and time that you want it to send to you. Okay. All right. Awesome. Showing numbers. How many of you know where to find your showing numbers? All right, we in ours, James, I don't remember what you have. I think you may have centralized showing services. Regardless, they're the ones that started us needing this kind of data, and now the other showing companies have mirrored what they had. So I get this question all the time. Wait, they have it? Yep, they have it now. So everybody has this, and here's where it is. Okay, so showing insights over here is the graph of a price point. Okay, so here's what this is telling me. Now, I haven't narrowed anything down, okay, but you can by county, city. So if I wanted, again, that Carmel, let's just do it and hit apply. And then you can change your price point here, okay? But I don't, well, let's do it. 400 to 450, because that's what we were talking about. And I want $5,000 increments, okay? Because that breaks it down smaller. All right, so here, this is a huge chart for your sellers, okay? Because if we are walking into a listing appointment and we're wondering where we should price it between 400 and 450, where we want to go is where the majority of buyers are going, right? Which is right there. Okay, so this is a great chart to look at. Now, this is easier to get them into their right price point by watching to see if there's more buyers in that price point they want. Right here, it's not going to make a whole lot of difference. Those same buyers are probably looking at those same houses. It's about even, right? But there's definitely more looking at these houses than there are right here. So why would we be at 435 when we could be at 434, 999 and catching more buyers? See, they're averaging 1 per listing and they're averaging 3 per listing. We have 3 times as much activity if we go down into that 434, 999. Why wouldn't your clients want to reduce to there or price it there to begin with? Okay,
Wait
this
a
is
minute.
hugely helpful.
How do you know that there aren't more homes in that price range versus the one that's not having as many showings? Do you know what I'm saying? So like if there's 10 homes that are in the 430,
well, they're averaging it for you. So see all this down here. So they have the number of listings, total number of showings. And that's how they're coming up with this data that's up here.
Okay.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yep.
Yep. So it shows you, and it's averaging it out for how many per listing is what that's showing you. It's showings per listing. Cool? Okay. So then the other piece that we said is so important. Oh, and you can save these. I think that's how. You can create a file with this data. That's something I don't totally know how to do, okay? But you can have your showing numbers sent to you also weekly. Okay, so then this is where you want to see the average days on the market before sold or leased. Okay, and the number of showings, average showings before sold or leased, and how many showings are happening in your price point and area. Now, obviously, when you narrow this down to price point and area, it's going to be, sorry guys, my chat was off. Oh, and you guys said 2. So we're going to do 2 geographic farm next week. Okay, next week we're going to do farming. For those of you that voted, because I just opened my chat box. Okay, so these are the numbers that you need to know. So obviously when they are in a smaller price point and price range, this number will be in the teens. Okay, if they're averaging 1 to 3 a week per listing, you're going to see 1 to 3 a week, right? And so that's what you should be seeing, and then you want to know you're getting the right percentage of those listings. Okay? So Riley asks, taking data from the BLC search and then compiling it into an actual email you're sending to your buyers and sellers. You are absolutely correct. So all this data comes from different places, and then you're going to compile it all and send it to them in one nice weekly email. Okay, the other report, sorry I missed this one on sellers. The other report you have to have is your feedback. That was the other report that came in on Mondays, is a report on every listing of what the feedback for that week was, because then I'd give them a high-level summary. We had 3 showings, 2 it just didn't work for, 1 said it was overpriced. 1 said the yard wasn't right. 3 said yard is still an objection, right? You start pulling up those objections. We're not going to do anything about the yard right now. Ultimately, right, it is what it is. Okay? All right. We're at 9 o'clock. I am sorry, those of you that voted for 2. Next week, that just means you got to come back next week. And we're going to talk geographic farm. We can talk all the other farms as well, how to build one, what's a good one, all that kind of stuff. And then start practicing these seller updates. If you are not doing seller and buyer updates, pick one of each and set up your searches and at least have them send you the data every week so you can study it, okay, and start watching those markets. All right, see you next week. Bye, everybody.